Hey guys, Dave O here. Today's project I will be switching it up a little bit and working on my wife's car. She has a 2007 Suburban, so I'm going to show you how to change the brake pads on the front and also the rotors. So let's get started. First thing you're going to have to do is remove the center cap. Center cap has these false lug nuts, so you just take the wrench here, loosen them up a bit, and they basically just screw out so you can get to the real lug nuts. Okay, there we go. So we got the real lug nuts here. I'm just going to give them a little bit of a loosening before I jack it up and take off the wheel. So, okay, now I got the tire jacked up just a little bit. Used a bottle jack. I also have a jack stand underneath just for safety purposes. But I'm just going to remove all the lug nuts and take off the tire. I'll remove the rest of these, take off the tire, and then we'll expose the rotor and the brake pads. Okay, now that we have the tire removed, I also put the tire under the front end just as a extra safety precaution. I'm not really getting underneath the car, but I like to be safe in case something fails. So now that I got this off, we have the rotor right here, and then we have the brake system here. Inside here is the brake pads, which we're going to remove and replace new ones. We're also going to take off the rotor and replace that as well. So what you have to get to the brakes is you have two bolts, one right here and the other one right below here. I've checked it out, and it seems like the 3/4 size socket, or 19, if you're metric, will fit that pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to loosen those up and take it off, and I'll show you what the pads look like. Okay, now I have these bolts loosened pretty good. I'll just hand loosen them the rest of the way. See what the size is here. Get the one underneath as well. Okay, that one. Now this whole unit should just slide right out, and there we have it. You have your, I'm just going to move this up top. Okay, now you have your pads. One pad on the back of the rotor, one pad on the front of the rotor. I'm just going to take those out, and then we'll unbolt the rest of the brake unit so we can take off the main rotor. So let me see if I can get these. Okay, yeah, they just pretty much slide right out. So here they are. These actually aren't that old, but when they were put on, they weren't the best. They're probably the cheapest that you can get. So I have a lot of squeaking noise going on here, and my wife doesn't like it, so I decided to get some real good ones, ceramic pads. So I'm taking these $20 pads off and replacing them. So now that we have the caliper off, we're going to take off the rest of this housing so we can get to the rotor. So if you come around the back side, you'll see that down low you have a bolt right here, and then one up top right back there, you take those two off and this whole housing will come off, and you'll be able to access the rotor. So okay, now I have it. Now I have these bolts loosened enough that I can just hand unloosen them. And these bolts are a little bit different, so you're not going to be mistaken of switching them out. These bolts are a lot thicker and also have a different thread pattern, so you don't have to worry about putting the wrong bolts in. So let me undo this one here. And that unit came right off. So there we have it. Now we have our, alright, let me spin this around here. Now we have access to the rotor. So the next thing we have to do is, to get this rotor off, you actually have to take out this screw right here, and it has a little hex screw on it. I'll have to get my little kit to see what size it is. But as soon as you take this off, the whole thing should just slide right off. So let me do that right now. Okay, what we have is we have the star bit, and it's a T30, so that should fit in there real nice. And I'm gonna have to put the camera down and hold the rotor with my other hand so it doesn't spin. Okay, there we go. Now it's coming off real nice. Just unscrew it all the way, take it out, and this should just slide off the lugs, and there you have it. This rotor is actually pretty new, so I'm just going to put it right back on. I just wanted to, for demonstration purposes, show you how to get it off, because when I bought the cheap pads, I also bought new rotors. It's a good habit when you replace the pads, you should replace the rotors if it's within your budget. So I'm just going to put this one back on, and then we'll get to putting on the new pads that I bought. Okay, one thing I'm going to show you about these new brakes I got. They actually came with new clips to go into the existing bracket for the brake pads. So I'm going to take these out and replace them with the new clips. Also, the old pads themselves, I actually had to reuse this back plate, this thin back plate that it comes with, where the calipers actually press onto. The new ones also have a more noise reduction, kind of like almost like a carbon fiber type backing plate, so you don't have to reuse this as well. So depending on the quality of the brake pads that you get, you might have to reuse this, and also these existing ones you're going to have to reuse. But I'm not going to. I'm going to have to replace these with all the new ones, so I'm going to do that right now. Okay, I got the new clips on. I reassembled it with the two bolts, one up here, one right there. So you got your nice shiny clips on. Now, one thing about the new pads and with the old pads themselves, they're two different sizes. One will fit on the back and one will fit on the front. And you really can't mess it up because one has this extra little lip on it. It just won't fit on one side, so you don't have to worry about putting them on the wrong side. So I'm going to add a little of the supplied grease here and inside here a little bit, because that's where they slide on, right in this area here, and then I'll put the pads on. Okay, got the new pads on both sides. Now comes for the tricky part. You have to take this and compress these calipers in so it'll be able to fit over the new pads, because as soon as you take it off, they have a tendency to retract out a little bit, so you have to push them in so you can fit them past the new width of the new pads. So for that, you have two options. I have a kit here that'll do it. It has a bunch of different sizes for all different kinds of car makes. It has two of the caliper screws, because you can see I have two calipers. It's a Suburban. Most, if you have a car, probably only have one. So I'll use that. If you don't have that, you could always use like a piece of wood in there and maybe a C-clamp around the back side, and just squeeze them in. One thing is, with the Suburban, you have two calipers, so you have to pretty much push them both in. You can't push one in, take it off, push it in the other one, because if you push one in, it'll push out the other one. So I'm going to push them in right now and get ready to put it back on top of the brake pads. Okay, I compressed them. I fit this back over the brake pads. Now I'm just tightening up these screws, and I should be able to put on the tire and go over and do the other side. You don't have to really worry too much. You have a little bit of time after you compress them calipers before they it will expand out. So just be quick, but make sure you don't rush it too much and mess anything up. So now I got the new brackets, new brake pads, fairly new rotor I put on, showed you how to put that on. All you have left to do is pretty much just tighten up these bolts with a ratchet, put on your tire, and you're good to go. So make sure you do both sides at the same time, so everything wears evenly. So that's how you put on new rotors, new brake pads on a 2007 Suburban. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it and subscribe to my channel.